Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are attempting to do something that sounds, well, maybe impossible.
Uh-huh.
We are trying to find a signal in the absolute sensory chaos that is Las Vegas in January. We are talking, of course, about CES 2026.
The Consumer Electronics Show. It's the annual pilgrimage for tech people, but it can also feel like I don't know, a fever dream of flashing lights and just noise.
Exactly. And, usually when we cover trade shows or look at the headlines, it's so easy to get distracted.
Oh, absolutely.
You see the wall-sized TVs, the transparent speakers, the gadgets that look cool, but, will never actually exist.
Total vaporware.
But for this deep dive, we have gone through a massive stack of reports, direct observations from the show floor, and some pretty dense technical notes to try and pull out the real narrative. We want to know what actually matters.
And surprisingly, if you strip away all the marketing fluff, the signal this year is incredibly strong. There's a very specific story emerging from the 2026 show. It's no longer just about digital things staying trapped on our screens. The theme is intelligence, forcing its way into the physical world.
Physical AI, that's a term we're going to be using a lot today.
Right. It's the idea that AI is growing legs and wheels and arms. And running parallel to that, there's a really desperate but fascinatingly innovative push to figure out how we power all this new hardware without, destroying the planet.
So to map this out for you, we are going to connect some very strange dots today.
Yeah.
We have autonomous robo-taxis that are actually navigating San Francisco fog.
Which is wild.
They have a battery made of paper that Apple is looking at. And yes, we have a jet bike.
Which is wildly impractical, but we absolutely have to talk about it.
Oh, I definitely talking about the jet bike. But I want to start with something that affects how our cities actually function. For years, looking at CES reports felt like reading a sci-fi wish list, especially with autonomous driving.
Right.
It was always 5 years away. It was the classic vaporware promise.
It was always just around the corner, but we never quite turned that corner.
But looking at the updates on Zoox, that timeline has collapsed. That whole narrative has shifted completely.
It has. And Zoox is such an interesting case study in patience. You have to remember, Amazon acquired them way back in 2020.
Right.
For a long time, compared to Waymo or Tesla, they were pretty quiet. They were just building in the background. But looking at the landscape in 2026, they've effectively graduated.
The notes emphasize that they aren't just testing in closed loops or empty parking lots anymore. They are live. They are moving real people in Las Vegas and San Francisco.
And those are two critically distinct environments. I think people really underestimate how hard that is.
How so?
Well, if you're driving in Phoenix, you have wide lanes, grid systems, and generally perfect weather. San Francisco is a nightmare for sensors.
Right. The hills.
You have steep hills that change the viewing angle of the lidar, you have inconsistent street layouts, you have fog that messes with optics, and you have aggressive human drivers.
And then Vegas has the unpredictability of tourists who might have had a few too many drinks and aren't looking where they're walking.
Exactly. So if Zoox is operating comfortably in those two environments, the chaotic elevation of SF and the chaotic humanity of Vegas, the technology has matured past the experiment phase.
Okay.
But the real insight in the documents, the thing that caught my eye, is where they are going next. Miami and Austin.
Why those two specifically? Is it just about hitting the trendy tech cities?
It's about stress testing the atmosphere. I mean, think about Miami. It gives you tropical weather.
Free range.
You have heavy sudden downpours, intense humidity, salt air. All of those things affect sensor reliability and vehicle maintenance. And Austin gives you a different mixed high-speed highway sprawl combined with that dense, chaotic downtown traffic.
So by expanding there, they aren't just grabbing market share.
No. They're basically saying, we believe our stack can handle the atmospheric variables of the real world. They are moving away from the curated, dry heat of the desert into the wet, humid, unpredictable reality of the rest of the country.
It signals that this is becoming infrastructure, not just a tech demo. It's actual transit.
It is.
But speaking of transit, while we are stuck in traffic on the ground, a lot of people at CES were looking up. We have to talk about the jet bike.
Leo Flight, yes.
Leo Flight. I looked at the concept art in our notes, and it literally looks like a motorcycle that someone strapped a turbine engine to. It's aggressive, it looks dangerous, and it looks incredible.
It is undeniably cool. It falls under the broad category of drone flight or eVTOL electric vertical takeoff and landing.
Okay.
But we need to apply a bit of skepticism here, or at least some context.
Is it actually viable, or is this just for the show?
Technically, Yes, the prototype exists, the engineering is sound, but think of Leo Flight as the hypercar of the sky.
The luxury item.
It's a luxury item. It
Yeah.
grabs the headlines, and it might be a toy for the ultra-wealthy, but it doesn't solve a transportation problem for 99% of the population. It's not going to change your commute.
Whereas the notes also mentioned Sambo.
Right, the Korean drone initiative. And that is the other side of the coin. While Leo Flight is for the thrill seeker, Sambo is pushing for urban air mobility as mass transit. Think of it as an aerial bus service.
Taking you from JFK to Manhattan in 7 minutes, hopping over the gridlock.
Exactly. These are the unsexy workhorses. They aren't designed to look cool or make you feel like Batman. They are designed to move volume. The contrast between Leo Flight and Sambo really highlights the split in the industry right now.
The toys for billionaires versus the future of public transit.
That's it, exactly.
Speaking of public transit, there was another player on the floor that kind of bridged that gap. Moya. This is a Volkswagen company.
Ride pooling.
And I want to pause on Moya for a second, not just for the tech, but for the people. One of the things I love about these deep dives is finding the human element. Our notes specifically describe a guy at the Moya booth, Evan Flynn.
The guy with the specific hair?
Yeah. The notes describe him as having blonde hair, but with this very distinctive side tuft of white. It's such a small detail, but it grounds you. CES isn't just logos and press releases. It's real people like Evan Flynn standing in a booth for 12 hours a day trying to explain why ride pooling is the future.
And for Volkswagen, that is a huge bet. They were trying to bridge the gap between a private taxi and a city bus. It's all about efficiency.
Right.
If you can use algorithms to route a van dynamically, picking up 4 people heading in the same general direction, you reduce congestion without the massive infrastructure cost of building a new subway line.
It really fits the theme we're seeing, doesn't it? You have Zoops doing the private robotaxi, Moya doing the shared shuttle, and Sambo doing the aerial route. It's a fragmented ecosystem.
It is. It's not one solution that wins. It's layers of solutions. And that fragmentation, that complexity is going to require a serious amount of intelligence to manage.
Which brings us to the brain of the operation.
AI.
It wouldn't be CES without AI. But the flavor of AI seems to have shifted this year. We aren't just talking about ChatGPT writing poems or generating images of cats anymore.
No. The buzzword has moved from generative to agentic.
Agentic AI.
Yeah.
That sounds a little intense. Before we define what that actually means, I want to bring in another character from the notes who seems to embody this shift, Jack Gant.
The profile on him is really interesting. He's not your typical Silicon Valley stereotype.
No, he's not. He's based in Venice, California, which is interesting in itself because it shows the center of gravity moving south from the Bay Area, originally from Gloucester, Massachusetts. The notes say his dad went to Harvard. He spent 5 years in New York. He feels like a representative of this new class of tech worker mobile, elite, well-connected, but not necessarily tied to a cubicle in Palo Alto.
And look at who he's working with. OpenAI, Grok, ChatGPT, the big guns. But the key is that he's focused on this agentic concept.
So let's break this down for everyone. What is the functional difference between the AI we have now and agentic AI? Why does that word matter?
Okay, think of the AI we've been using for the last few years, like standard ChatGPT, as a really smart consultant.
Yeah.
You ask it a question, it gives you an answer, it writes a report for you. But it's passive, it waits for you to prompt it, and it hands the work back to you. You still have to go and do something with that information.
It doesn't do anything outside of the chat window. It's trapped in the text box.
Precisely. An agent has agency. It can take action. An agentic AI doesn't just tell you which flight is the cheapest. It logs into the airline's API, selects the seat you like because it knows you prefer the aisle, pays for it using your digital wallet, and puts the calendar invite on your phone.
So it's the difference between a consultant giving advice and an executive assistant actually handling the task.
That is the perfect analogy. And seeing people like Jack Gant pushing this at CES suggests we are moving from the wow, look what it can write phase to the wow, look what it can do phase. It's about execution.
But that requires a massive amount of trust. I mean, I'm happy for an AI to draft an email for me. I'm less sure about giving it my credit card to book travel or move money.
And that's where the validation comes in. The notes mentions SoundHound AI. They are based in Palo Alto, heavily involved in voice AI. But look at their client list in the report.
It mentions Wells.
Yeah.
So presumably Wells Fargo.
Right. Banks are historically incredibly risk-averse. They do not play around with unproven tech because the regulatory burden is so high and the cost of failure is massive.
Of course.
If a major financial institution is integrating AI agents into their customer service or backend, that tells us the reliability has hit a tipping point.
It's graduating from the playground to the boardroom. But agentic doesn't just apply to software, does it? This connects to that other term we mentioned at the top, physical AI.
This was, for me, the most significant shift at the show. We saw Hitachi showcasing their QA bot. They called it Hitachi IQ.
What does that actually look like on the floor? Is it just a robot arm?
It looks like a robot arm, but the brain behind it is different. Imagine a robot arm on a manufacturing line. In the old days, you programmed that arm to move from point A to point B. It was rigid.
Right.
If the part at point A was slightly crooked, the robot would jam or crush it or fail. It was dumb automation.
It had no awareness of its environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Physical AI means giving that robot a brain specifically, a vision system powered by something like Azure OpenAI. Now, the robot looks at the part, recognizes it's crooked, understands the physics of how to grab it anyway, and adjusts its movement in real time. It's improvising based on intelligence.
Wow. The notes mentioned digital twins in this context as well. Can you unpack that concept?
Sure. A digital twin is exactly what it sounds like, a virtual replica of a physical system. So before that Hitachi robot moves a single muscle, the AI simulates the movement 1,000 times in the digital twin to find the most efficient path. Then it executes that perfect path in the real world.
It's like Doctor Strange looking at all the possible futures before acting.
That's a great way to put it. It optimizes in the virtual world to control the physical world. That is physical AI. It's intelligence applied to atoms, not just bits.
It feels like a reversal. For the last decade, the trend was the metaverse us going into the digital world. This is the digital world coming out to us.
It's the intelligence leaking out of the screens and inhabiting the machinery around us.
Now, not all of this is industrial. There was a consumer device that really caught my eye because it seems like something our listeners, especially the learners out there who are constantly in meetings or lectures, would actually buy. The Plod.
The Plod Note, I believe. It's a fascinating little device.
It's hardware, specifically for recording.
It's a Chinese company. And what's interesting is the form factor. It isn't a big, clunky dictaphone. It's ultra slim. You can snap it onto the back of your iPhone via MagSafe or just wear it as a clip-on.
And the price point is reasonable. The notes say $150 to $189.
Which puts it in the impulse buy territory for professionals or students. But think about the utility. It records calls, meetings, or lectures, and then uses that agentic capability we talked about to transcribe, summarize, and extract action items.
See, that's useful. I've tried using apps for that, but having a dedicated button, a physical switch to just capture reality, feels different.
It's an extension of memory. We are outsourcing the cognitive load of remembering to a piece of hardware. It allows you to actually participate in the meeting, to make eye contact and engage instead of scribbling notes the whole time.
So we have the movement, Zooks, and air taxis. We have the brains, agentic, and physical AI.
Yeah.
Now I want to pivot to the third pillar, the power. Because usually battery tech is, well, let's be honest, it's dry.
It's usually incremental, 5% more density or charges 10% faster. It's important, but it's boring.
But this year there was a company called Flint, and they claimed to have a paper battery.
This is the big aha moment of the show for me. Because paper battery sounds like a gimmick. It sounds like origami. But the science behind it is legitimate, and the implications are massive.
So break it down. Is it actually made of paper?
It relies on cellulose,
Which is plant fiber.
the most abundant organic polymer on Earth. Think about traditional batteries, the lithium-ion ones in our phones and cars. They rely on heavy metals, lithium, cobalt, nickel.
Which are a nightmare to mine.
Horrible for the environment, often mined in conflict zones and difficult to recycle. Flint, which is a Singapore-based company run by Johan Rittergaard and Carlo Charles, is replacing that toxic chemical soup with a cellulose-based structure.
But the casing is still metal, right? You can't just stick a piece of cardboard in your remote.
Right. We need to be precise. The notes are clear on that. It looks like a standard coin cell or a battery pack. You hold it in your hand, it feels like a battery. But the inside chemistry is the revolution.
Does it actually work, though? Or is this just a university science project that we'll never see again?
That's the key question. And the answer seems to be yes, because of who is interested. The notes specifically mention that Apple is working with suppliers to test this technology.
Apple.
Apple doesn't mess around with maybe. They're the masters of supply chain. If Apple is looking at cellulose batteries, it means they are seeing a potential path to scale. They ship hundreds of millions of devices. They cannot rely on a supply chain of lithium forever, purely from a business risk perspective.
Imagine the impact of that. If every AirTag, every remote, every small IoT device used a biodegradable battery instead of a lithium one.
It solves the e-waste crisis before it starts, and we're already seeing it in the wild. A brand called Nimble is using Flint's tech in luggage tags and passport cases.
Which brings it all back to the travel theme.
It does. Smart luggage that tracks itself, powered by a battery that doesn't poison the earth when you eventually throw it away. It's a maturation of the industry. We aren't just building cool things anymore. We are trying to figure out how to build them sustainably.
It's less move fast and break things and more move fast and fix things.
I like that. That's a good way to frame it.
Before we wrap up the analysis, we have to mention the atmosphere of the show. Because CES is also just weird. It's a mix of the profound and the ridiculous.
It is chaos. Specifically, Eureka Park, which is the startup basement where you find things like Flint. It's usually hot, crowded, and just full of frantic energy.
The notes mention a few things that just made me smile. An AI barista from a company called Flying Tiger.
Which is basically a vending machine with a personality. Again, physical AI replacing a service job. It creates a perfect latte, but you lose the chat with your local barista.
And ULS Robotics showing off exoskeletons.
Human augmentation, helping warehouse workers lift heavy loads. That connects back to the industrial theme, making humans stronger rather than just replacing them.
And finally, a piano LED.
Which I assume is a piano that lights up.
Sometimes tech is just shiny lights, and that's okay too.
It sets the scene. You have the world-changing sustainability of Flint sitting right next to a glowing piano. That is the CES ecosystem in a nutshell.
So let's pull this all together. We've covered a lot of ground today. From Zoox navigating San Francisco fog to Jack Gaunt's AI agents to paper batteries. What is the big takeaway here? What is the so what?
I think the red thread connecting all of this agentic AI, physical AI, and even the autonomous transport is that technology is becoming more integrated and paradoxically less intrusive.
Less intrusive. That seems counterintuitive when we're talking about robots walking around in drones in the sky.
But think about the friction. Think about how we interact with tech today. We poke at screens, we type, we stare. But an agentic AI does the work for you, so you don't have to stare at an app to book a flight.
Right.
A robotaxi drives for you, so you don't have to watch the road. A paper battery powers your device, but eliminates the guilt and the recycling hassle.
It's working in the background.
Exactly. The technology is disappearing into the infrastructure. It's becoming the fabric of reality rather than a tool we have to pick up and manipulate.
That is a really powerful thought. We spent the last 20 years staring at our screens, the black mirrors, as people call them.
Right? The next 20 years might be about putting the screens down. Because if the world around us, the cars, the coffee machines, the buildings, is smart enough to anticipate our needs, why do we need to stare at a phone?
That is the provocative question I want to leave everyone with.
Nah.
If AI is becoming an agent that handles our tasks, and batteries are becoming made of paper,
Right.
and cars are driving themselves, are we approaching a future where the tech becomes invisible? Are we moving toward a world where we stop looking at screens entirely because the intelligence is just everywhere?
An invisible future. It's a little scary, to be honest. It implies a lot of trust in these systems.
It does. If it works, it's liberating. But that is a big if. And that's what we saw at CES 2026, the early, messy, fascinating attempts to make it work.
Well, whether you're waiting for your jet bike or just happy to have a battery that doesn't kill the planet, it's clear things are moving fast.
Faster than ever.
Thanks for taking this dive into the source material with us. It's a wild world out there. Stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.